Hello friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink with another mixed media card. Can't stop, won't stop, having too much fun. So I've got my Tonic Easy Clean Matte. I have some just Canson XL watercolor paper. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stamp this Simon Says Stamp Friendship Text background. This came out, I don't even remember, a while ago. Any small text stamp would work. I went with this one this time instead of the thank you one that I usually use because I'm not doing a thank you card this time. So I inked it up with Simon's Fog ink. So just a really light, pale, neutral ink. Stamped that onto the watercolor paper. Dried it with my heat tool. Honestly, I don't know if that's necessary, but I was like, why not? It's already there and plugged it in because I'm going to use it for the layers anyway. So dried that, and then I'm going to do some ink smushing. So kind of same old, if you've been watching my recent videos. This time I'm going a little lighter. I wanted something softer. And I'm also only doing one color at a time. You know, usually I'll do all three or, whatever colors I'm using. I smush the ink pads onto my surface, spray with water, yada, yada. This time I'm doing one color at a time because I've got this pretty pink. This is Cheeky ink. All these are the Pawsitively saturated inks from Simon. And I'm using a pink, a yellow, and a green. And these colors mixed together can easily turn into mud. Kind of gray, sludgy, just not pretty. So I did the colors separately. And also I was trying really hard. I added more water. And like I said, I was going after kind of just a lighter background, which for me is a bit of a struggle because it's I wanted the most intense color and as many layers as possible. But I wanted to go lighter. So my second color was Lemonade, so just a pretty pale yellow. And then my final color is going to be the Celery green. And this one I went way less ink, because I just wanted a little bit of it and I didn't want it to layer too much on top of that pink because pink and green can get ugly very quickly. And the fun thing I noticed with this, and it happens often, the fog ink that I stamped the background in, it kind of absorbed these other colors so that the lettering actually has the look of those colors. It's just a fun little kind of a coincidence, yet at the same time I kind of knew that was going to happen because it's such a light gray ink, but it's just fun. So of course I added splatter because obviously that's just what one does. I added splatter with the inks, and then I also added white gouache splatter. So I just squeezed out a little bit of white gouache, added some water, splattered that all over the background, let that dry. Once it was dry, I pulled out this is the CLOVER WREATH stencil. This is from Simon's Good Luck Charm release that just came out. And I thought this stencil was really pretty, and I was like, ooh, this would work great with the crackle paste. So placed that over my background and applied crackle paste over it with my little palette knife. I am actually maybe going to use up this jar in the near future. I've had it for I don't know how many years. I've done how many videos with this stuff, and I still have so much left, which is great because the more the merrier. So apply the crackle paste over the stencil and then set aside this background to dry and let the, paste do its thing. And then for my main image, I'm using the new Spring Stems stamp set, and I'm going to white heat emboss this stamp onto another piece of that same Canson XL watercolor paper. So I used my anti-static powder tool. I inked up and stamped that image twice with clear embossing ink just to make sure I actually got everything stamped. Once it was stamped, coated it with my detail white embossing powder. I'm going to melt this with my heat tool. Once everything's melted, I'm going to use the same positively saturated inks to do all my watercoloring. So I think I've said this in recent videos. I am loving these inks. I have been using them, for blending, for stamping, for my mixed media backgrounds. They work great for this watercoloring. They did release 15 more colors with this latest release. I cannot wait to get my hands on them. They're not here yet. Otherwise, I would have been using them too. But when they do get here, I'll be doing a happy dance. Although I'm not sure where I'm going to put them. But anyway. all I did was basically wet on wet. So I go in with clean water first, and then I swirl my paintbrush in the inks that I've smushed right onto that nonstick craft sheet, and then paint with them. So I'm using all of those 3 same colors as well as some of the darker shades. So I've got like Celery, Pear Affection, Lemonade, Sunbeam, Citrine, Cheeky, and Blush. Because I decided to make these little crocuses pink. I was going to do the daffodils pink. I didn't even think that was a thing. But I Googled it, and there's like daffodils. They're like white and pink. They're so pretty. They're so pretty. So anyway, I was just in this, very spring mood while it is just gross cold here. Anyway, did all my painting, and then I went in and did a second layer on the flowers just to add, more depth, color, bit of texture, that sort of a thing. Just kind of swirling my brush in and trying not to be perfect with it, so that it will dry and be mottled. And there's something about that I just love. So did that with the little crocus flowers as well. Let everything dry. And then once everything's dry, I'm going to add more splatter because I just love the look of it. I get occasional comments from people saying they don't like the splatter. Well, if you don't like it, you don't have to do it on your cards. I personally love it. I never thought I would, but I don't know. I just love it. I love the texture it gives. I love how it also covers up some of the oops. And it makes me happy. So I added splatter with those inks. And I also added a bit of white gouache as well. However, with the white gouache, I watered this down even more because I didn't want it to be like harsh white splattered over these flowers. So I added more water to it so that as it dries, it's going to kind of absorb, like pull up a bit of the color that I used to do the watercoloring, and it'll just be more subtle. So right now it does look like a hot mess, but once it's dry and then I die cut it, it'll be fine. So I let it dry, like I said, and then I used the coordinating wafer die to die cut this out. So tape the die into place with a bit of my Spellbinders tape, ran that through my die cut machine. I also die cut this Feel Better Soon sentiment from CZ Design. I love her sentiment wafer dies. Just, yes, they're perfect. So this one I die cut 3 times because, as is tradition, I like to stack my sentiments at least 3 layers. So I die cut them from some lemon chiffon cardstock, stacked all 3 of those layers together with craft tacky glue. And after I was done stacking them, I'm going to ink blend those yellow inks onto this. Because it is so light, it would have just kind of faded into the background of the card, even though the card itself is light. This just gives it a little extra something. So I'm using all 3 of the yellow inks, so the Lemonade, the Sunbeam, and the Citrine. And I'm just going in with a blending brush, adding my lightest color, and ended up covering the whole thing because I love this color. I'm just in a yellow mood lately. So anyway, blended that one. And then when I add the Sunbeam ink, I'm only going to go up about halfway, kind of creating a bit of an ombre effect. So lightly add a little bit of that. And then the last little bit, I'll add that Citrine, which is my darkest yellow, and that just right along the bottom. So I've got this fun little ombre going on. And then I die cut the outline from this die set from vellum. And I'm going to adhere them together with more craft tacky glue. Just being careful not to put too much glue onto the back of this so that it doesn't ooze out and show on the vellum. So put that on the back, slap that into place, and then I've got my sentiment ready to go. And then, as also has been tradition in recent videos, I pulled out my Mayart's twine, and I'm going to wrap this around my background. My background, I did end up die cutting. I wasn't sure in the beginning if I was going to cut this down, but I did. I cut it down with just one of my basic rectangle wafer dies. So it'll be slightly smaller than my A2 card front. Wrapped the twine around it, tied that in a bow, trimmed off the excess. And then my main little image of florals here, I'm going to pop this onto the card with Simon's Big Mama foam tape, because this is one of the best ways to adhere anything over stuff that's like crackle paste, or if I'd use like a glitter paste or like glitter cardstock, things like that. foam tape is one of the best ways to adhere things because it will actually stick. So adhered that. And then for my sentiment, rather than trim down little bits of foam tape to go underneath those bits of letters that are like the bottom portion of that die cut sentiment, I thought about it, and sometimes I do it. It depends on the sentiment, depends on my mood, but I didn't want to do it for this. Easiest thing to do is I just ran the sentiment through my die cut machine with the scraps of the watercolor paper and just the bottom portion that you can see right there. And then I adhered those layers together, and then I stuck those behind the sentiment. So much easier. And you can also do this if you were, just popping up just a sentiment, as the focus of your card, and you have, vellum behind it, and then you want to pop that up. This also works as well to just die cut the whole word a few more times and stack rather than fiddling with little bits of foam tape, other things. This is just a nice alternative. So after I adhered those, put the adhesive on the back to hide behind the words, stuck that into place, and then I'd also use the same rectangle wafer die and just die cut a little piece of white cardstock with it because I want to stamp it with the yellow ink. Usually I would, just stamp this on the inside of the card. That would work too, but every once in a while it's like, no, I'll do a little kind of insert just cause. And in this case, it was because I wanted to use that lemonade ink. So I used that, stamped that floral image with the lemonade ink, and then I'm using a sentiment from the CZ Design Well Wishes stamp set. So line that up, and that I'm going to stamp with VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. Stamp that onto this little panel, and then I'm going to adhere this panel just with some dot runner adhesive because it's just a lightweight piece, easy peasy, nothing to it. So ran a few bits of the dot runner on the back of this. I'm going to adhere this to the inside of my card base. I had already coated the back of my card front with more Big Mama foam tape so that I've got a little bit more dimension, but still not a ton of bulk. So peeled off the backing to all of that, adhered that in place, and as always, like a broken record, you could always stop here, but I'm going to add a little bit of bling. I'm going to add some Studio Caudia round, what are they called? I have to scroll down and look because I always forget. Just sparkling round gems. Just nice and subtle. And when the glue dries behind these, then they're completely clear and they're just pretty without being totally distracting. So I'm going to adhere those into place with dabs of Craft Tacky Glue. I'm going to pair this card with a coordinating little lemon chiffon envelope, and that's going to finish off this card. So this video is also part of a blog hop for the Good Luck Charm release. I'll have all that info in my blog post along with giveaways and a coupon code and links to all the supplies I used, all of that. You can find that link directly below the video in the description box along with all the info. Thank you all so much for watching and subscribing and thumbs upping and commenting. I very much appreciate it, and I will see you all soon in the next video. Bye!